Michigan has named true freshman Bryce Underwood, who signed with the Wolverines on a reported $12.5 million NIL deal as its starting quarterback. The five-star QB who grew up just outside of Ann Arbor was the number one recruit of the 2025 class. Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Daily. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. And look, I don't want to downgrade anything of what Bryce accomplished in being named the starter at Michigan. I think it's important to note that this is certainly something he was in the running for. And from day one, there was an expectation that he might be able to win the job. And anytime a true freshman wins the job, I'm just reminded about the fact that, just 6 months ago, the biggest concern many of them had was a promposal. And now they're going to stand in front of 100,000 people trying to figure out how to win an important college football game. So there's a lot to this. But Caroline, it is impossible to look at this and not think about the fact that $12.5 million NIL deal is a new part of modern college football. Like, there are going to be eyebrows raised saying, of course, you got the guy that got paid the most wins the starting job. Like, this is exactly what happens in the NFL. Like, this is just true to life.
Yeah, obviously at this point it's neither here nor there, but to need to pay a kid $12.5 million a year when he grew up a hop and a skip from campus feels very un-Michigan. But hey, good for him. Good for Bryce Underwood. And look, he's a good kid. He's a mature kid. He is a heck of a football player. Clearly, right? When he's being paid $12.5 million at just 18 years old, and he's earned the starting job at Michigan. I think it's a testament to the kind of person, the kind of kid, the kind of player that Bryce Underwood is. But I have to think that, in a pre-NIL world, before that we had, obviously players were probably still getting paid under the table, but before we knew what they were getting paid, would a true freshman quarterback be named the starting quarterback at Michigan? And not just the starting quarterback at Michigan, but really kind of the savior at Michigan after kind of a rough year last year, coming off of winning the national championship. Now there's all of the controversy surrounding the Connor Stallions of it all, that Sharon Moore will be suspended. It was a self-suspension. This year he'll be gone for 2 games this year. That there's just a lot of stuff surrounding the Michigan football program. So now not only is Bryce Underwood being paid $12.5 million for his services, he's now viewed as the savior, the kid, the 18-year-old who was supposed to erase all of the wrongdoing that's been going on at Michigan over the last couple of years. So would he be the starting quarterback as a true freshman if he wasn't being paid $12.5 million a year? I don't know. He's not the first true freshman starting quarterback in the history of college football, but I lean no. I lean that he wouldn't. I lean that they would probably take a more conservative approach to Bryce Underwood, let him sit on the bench, let him learn, let him at least have 1 year to figure out life in college, figure out where he's walking to class, to figure out life on his own, much less life in college football in the Big Ten. But now I don't know how Sharon Moore and the entire Michigan coaching staff could justify sitting Bryce Underwood on the bench for $12.5 million a year. So Fitz, I think that NIL, and now that we have an actual dollar amount attached to some of these players and these quarterbacks, it's rushing their development because now they want to see an immediate return on their financial investment.
The hard part, look, he beat out Mikey Keene. Mikey Keene, a grad transfer with a bunch of experience. Mikey wasn't available in spring practice. For context here, Bryce was. So, is it fair to say that Bryce went out and won the job? Probably. The concern that I have is in the 12.5, the concern that I have is just the reality of the way the world works. The first time he throws a big interception that cost Michigan a game, the screams of, we paid $12.5 million for that? Like, that's what's going to happen. And it's the unfortunate part of NIL. Look, I want every kid to go out and make generational wealth. And so good for him, especially because, come on, we have no idea how many quarterbacks will actually make it to the end. We always think that the top recruit's going to end up being an NFL superstar, but that doesn't happen. So let him go out and make his money today. I love it. I want the kids to be successful. I think we also just have to accept the fact that along with that comes a certain standard that you're going to be held to by not just every fan in the stands, every fan watching at home, every real-life Buddy Garrity. If you ever watch Friday Night Lights, remember, the TV show, you have Buddy Garrity coming in the car dealer asking Coach, why is this guy not playing? And, talking to Coach in his ear about things. Well, when you've got somebody making $12.5 million, it's tough for the coach to decide not to start him. And frankly, it brings the expectations to a different level from the first minute they step on the field. And look, that's fine. Look, he's a millionaire at this point. So I'm not asking for anyone to show tremendous sympathy for, what that looks like pressure wise. But I do think there's a real conversation of, what that feels like. And frankly, through the growth, it will make him a better quarterback. Throwing interceptions in big moments sometimes just makes you a better quarterback. You got to grow through some of these things to become the best version of yourself. My concern is that the $12.5 million, look, ultimately
Mhm.
is going to change the way that everybody views the progression and the process for the quarterback. I don't think college football is broken. I think college football is better than
Mhm.
it's ever been. I think college football players should go out and get paid massive amounts of money. I love every ounce of it. I do think we also just have to accept that if he has a bad run for a month, not only is every booster and every car dealer, every kid on campus is going to turn around saying, yep, you're making $12.5 million for that. Like, it is a different level of pressure that he's going to have to learn to live in.
You could ask the question, does NIL rush the development of young quarterbacks? Maybe it could. Maybe Bryce Underwood and his NIL deal is, he's going out in the field maybe earlier than in a pre-NIL world he wouldn't have. But also, I look at Arch Manning, right? He was able to sit on the bench for 2 years and develop. So, how much does it rush the development of young quarterbacks? I think that's a program by program, team by team basis. I think it more so, though, rushes the court of public opinion because now you expect greatness from a quarterback that is getting paid like a great one, like an elite one. And I think we saw that with Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee. I witnessed it firsthand. I was living in Nashville. I was surrounded by Tennessee fans, and they all knew that, now $4 million a year sounds like chump change compared to his 12 and a half, but still, Nico Iamaleava was one of the highest paid quarterbacks at that time. And everyone expected Nico to be a perfect, ready made, elite prospect right away. And that's just not realistic. I think that NIL deals now empower football fans more than ever to critique, like, yeah, like you just said, like, oh, we're paying X million dollars for this, when we never would have done that previously. We would have extended more grace to young quarterbacks, but now they're getting paid. That grace doesn't exist as much as it used to.
Yeah, and it's the NFL. I mean, think about it. Dylan Gabriel may have played his way into the backup job. And we say, oh my
Mhm.
God, that's amazing. The third round quarterback may have played himself into the backup job. Jackson Dart might be the backup. And we're sitting here saying, oh, I don't know. Yes, they're different players, but also they were drafted in different spots. If Cam Ward was being sat for the first season, everybody would be saying, wow, but you drafted him first overall. This is it. Like, at some point we have to just accept, and we have the opportunity, Yahoo, to be around a lot of the high school athletes, and you've got high school kids now that are making 7 figures a year in NIL. Like,
It's
the game
crazy.
has changed, and now it's no different than, there was a period in my life where if you were a 15-year-old that wanted to make it in the music business, you had plenty of time to do it. Now, if you're a 15-year-old that doesn't have a million followers, you're behind, right? Like, the whole world and the way we treat talented kids has wildly changed. And look, I hope the best for Bryce Underwood. The difference between Bryce and
Yeah.
Arch is always going to be Texas was in the national championship conversation. Ain't none of us believe that Michigan this year is going to be in the national championship conversation. So Michigan fans are going to be anxious to see him come out and perform right away.